Hi everyone, how are we today? I hope everybody's having a great day. It's Sunday afternoon, had a wonderful morning, and now I thought we would sit down and finish the Easter Bunny painting that I started, part one. I had made a video and something happened to it. I don't know what happened to it. I don't know what I did, but anyway, I screwed it up. So anyway, I'm going to actually do part two that I would have been part two as part one. So it's just the finishing up of a painting that I started, the Easter Bunny painting, and finishing it up with you guys. So with further ado, let's head on over. Follow me. So here we are, folks. We're back at the table to finish up, like I said, this part one that I messed up, so I don't have that video, so I'm starting this off. That would have been a part one, but now I'm going to have to make the second part of what I was going to finish a part one, and just probably not a part one, but just a video, one video. So we're just going to finish this thing. So I took, some paints, and I did a lot of the work already, like I said, in a video that I no longer have. It's funny how things work. Okay, so what I'm going to do here, I really wish that hadn't happened, because I did a lot of the bunny and everything, but I've shown you in other ones how to do bunnies. So let's just continue on. This is a cold press paper. This is, I normally work with hot press, but I got this on sale, so it works nicely. It works well. And I did something a little different. This is not a block, but I have made it a block. You see, I can't really get a sheet of paper up off here, because what I did was I just put Mod Podge around the whole sides of this, leaving a little opening to take it off, and it works awesome. It really works awesome. The blocks are more expensive, so why should I pay that? Okay, so anyway, that works. So what I think what I'll think we'll do in this one, I'm going to do the background for one thing. Oh, I know what the other thing was. I'm not using tape anymore. I just can't see the need to have tape when I can just draw out my box. The about the size of the mat that could fit for this picture. The same as I would put a tape. And then I'm not ruining my, or chancing to ruin my paper with the tape, taking the tape off, or even needing to take the tape off. I just kind of lost the need for it, is the best way to put it. So we'll just continue on. So I'm going to take one of my, let's see here. I'm going to take one of the small round brushes. This is a Transin, and these Transin brushes are very nice. I like them very much. And I have dry paper here. So I guess what we'll do is just start with one of the flowers. And the first one I'm going to do is going to be wetting the paper first. So I'm dipping my brush into clean water, and I'm wetting this. Then I'm going to pick my color, which is going to be this rose. Get that out onto my palette. Take a little water off, and come on over here and just sort of dab it in, and it's going to do its watercolor thing, because we're doing wet on wet, it's called. What I'm trying to remember to do on this wet on wet is leave the white space. So I want that a bit darker than that. I'm going to add some red. And I also want these tips on these Transins are a very nice tip. They hold up nice and they work really well. So I'm just getting the first kind of wash on here. I usually like to get another little color, another reddish color, to outline where I want it to be outlined. Sort of move that red color around a little, along with that other rose color. And that's kind of pretty. And then I'm going to mix those two on my palette And I'm going to come in back here, and that's not going to be dark enough, so we're going to add a little purple. When we add purple, take a little of that water off, because this is a petal in the back. So the one in the back is going to be more shadowed, so to speak, than the one in the front. Now I can just dab out a color there. That means washing off my brush, drying it off, come in here and press down and soak up some color. So you see I soaked up some color there. And then I went back into the red a little. All right, so that way I have my, I have the dark background color, and I have the front. And I'm going to add a little more rose in here, because watercolor always dries light. So what you see is going to be, you know, significantly different when it dries. So you just keep that in mind when you're painting. All right, so then now we're going to have the greens, and I'm not going to wet the paper because I want to be able to control the greens to a degree. It's going to move a little bit at the base of that flower, simply because the flower petals were still a little wet. And there we have that. It moved a little bit here, but I don't mind that much. In fact, I don't mind at all that it moved a little there. I'm just going to do that. And I'm going to wash that off and go into a different green. Oops, that didn't end up being different. That's all right. I'm going to take some of my red. And I'm going into some of my orange, which I forgot to put down, but that's all right. And with a wet brush and paint onto my dry paper, I'm going to tip down, press down the belly of the tip down. Okay, so the tip is down, and then dragging the belly to get out of the lines there. All right, that's okay, because I can go back in and just sort of soak it up at the moment, and it's not that big of a deal anyways. And then I'm going to go back into the red and a little bit, and just sort of paint this lip that's looking like it's curled over on the leaf. So that's that. All right, so, and what I did here was I left the white space, and I took a little rose paint. I'll do it again. It was wet. I'm going to wet this again. I can do that. I can go back and wet it. Then take that color again and draw it in there again. It's not going to move quite as much because I've got the other color. Not staying in the lines very well this afternoon. That's my shadow side. And I'm going to come over here while I'm doing this. Put a little bit more on this area here and here. And take a little bit of it out with some water and smooth it over a little. This is called getting hard edges out, which is just makes it look, you don't have to. It just makes it look a little bit better, and that's his ears. All right, so now what I also wanted to mention was that this is a fine tip, so it's going to do a really good job on lines, right? And anything that is tight spaces, a line, you know, it's nice to go in and paint with no matter what anyways. But the nice fine tip, pointed tip, gets into nice places and draws really nice lines. So what I'm going to do now is I had done eggs over here, so I'm going to come over to this egg. I'm going to wet the paper. Take a little bit of that off. And what color I don't have a blue one, so I'm going to, this is a metallic blue. I thought I'd see what that looked like here with the These are my Daniel Smith metallic blues, but I'm going to add some regular blue to that. It's nowhere near dark enough that I want. So, and it's moving around because, as I mentioned, I put water down already. And another thing is the reason why these colors are not blending into these is because what I'm on here is wet. What this paper here is dry. It's already dried. If it was wet, it would all just kind of blend together, which is one of the beautiful things of watercolor. But for right now, I didn't want it to blend. I wanted to have control of the water, excuse me, on my egg. So I'm going to take some red, which will turn this into purple, because as we learned in school, red and blue make purple. So anyway, we've got that. We've got that darker side there. I think I might take a little yellow and see what happens when I just like these eggs to be all kind of multicolored. So it's going to kind of turn it a little green and leave a little yellow. So that's pretty. And I left my white space. Now, as I showed over here, and they've faded, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back over with a blue, put it on my brush, and this is all dry now. I'm going to show you how fine I can now go use this tip for that to go over what I've already put down. See how beautiful they work, these tips? This is a fairly small brush. I'll show you with a different brush in a minute. But this was this is a fairly small one, and one I wanted to show that little thing with. Helpful tip. The smaller the brush, of course, the smaller everything, but it all depends on what you want to work with. And because the colors dry lighter, you keep adding in your colors to make it the darker color that you want, and it will still dry a little bit lighter. Now those same lines that I have there, I want to show you what you can do with this other Transcend brush, a size 16, but with a beautiful point. It's got this big belly, but it has this beautiful point. So even though you have a big brush, if it has this really nice, beautiful point, we can go into that same blue with this particular brush, just kind of getting the color on the edges, and we can do the same thing. Look at that, with this beautiful, large, yet wonderfully pointed brush. Isn't that cool? Come down here, need a little more blue. I hope your day's going well for you all. Day's almost half over, but I thought I'd finish this one up. Today is Sunday here. Okay, so I'm going to use this and keep this same brush. I'm going to take that paint off, dry it up a bit, and then we're just going to wet this one here, and we're going to do it with this larger brush. And you'll see how, because I have this nice tip. Oh, another thing too is I'm working on this cold press. The water really soaks in on these. Really, really soaks in. Now I'm going to take purple, come over here, a little bit with that blue. So my brush is damp. It's not sopping, it's damp. And with this beautiful tip, we're going to go right around the egg, following that line. My hands aren't too steady today. Well, that's all right. And we're also going to go right around this egg here. I'm trying to keep my hand out of the way. Normally I would just go like this, but I'm trying to keep this hand out of the way so you can see it. And look at how nicely, oh, so beautifully this big brush with a beautiful tip works. And I want to keep some of this lighter here, put it back over here, push the color around with the brush. Keep that darker there. I'm going to go in a little bit and around the egg. That it's laying on top of this egg, so it's going to be a little shadowy, right? So we're just going to add some shadow, and on the bottom here, move the color around a little, trying to keep that highlighted spot in the center, or around the center. Look at that. I can come in and work and fix that and make a beautiful, I really like these brushes. I really, really do. I really actually think I'm going to get myself some other, I have so many brushes, but you just come along these ones that you just like, oh, that one I really like. So when I bought them, I didn't realize that I was buying such big bellied, that the whole, I mean, there's that one, there's this one that's even bigger, and the rest just get bigger from there. But these few that are smaller, I can work well with. Now we're going to come up while that's drying a little bit. I'm going to go in to the green again. I'm going to get some of the green, which is mixed in a little bit with my red right now, which is what I love to do on my palettes. I just put in some yellow ochre to that color. So in this little space here, I've got greens, I've got some purples, I've got some yellow ochre, some green. And I don't wipe up my mixes on my palette within a painting. I just keep, rarely, I mean, there have been times where I do, but I just keep blending, because that's where I get a lot of my blended colors, and people ask, how'd you get that color, that blending color? They like the color. Well, it's all from what's happening on my palette, and I just choose something in there. Usually works out wonderful. So I don't know why I even told you that, except for the fact that people do ask me that, and that's how I get it. So it's rather interesting. Okay, so we're going to come over here with this fine tip and show you how you might have to zoom in and use this tip to just draw this beautiful line, and very carefully, because I'm controlling the water right now. It's not doing its own thing. I'm making it do what it's supposed to do, because what I'm painting on here is dry. If it was wet, it would blend all like these did, because all of that was wet. And like this flower, because I wet the surface. So we did the green, so let's do that. Let's take some water and wet these petals here. And these brushes hold a lot of water, so you want to make sure that, yeah, there's a little too much water there. Soak it up a little. You want to make sure that you get off quite a bit of the water, or you'll have this big blob of water that will come falling down into your work. So here we are with this beautiful tipped big brush, delicately putting in this this beautiful paint, and I'm still controlling it to a degree, because I'm very carefully doing it. I'm going to come up here, and then I'm going to add some where is it, my mauve, to this a little bit, and see what changes, see how it changes on this side. Okay, it doesn't change too much, but it does. It's a darker red. But see how carefully and I can work with these tips of these brushes? Just awesome. Okay, I'm going to take most of that off, and I want to dab a little out here for that highlight there, and for this highlight there. I didn't go out of the lines really at all with this great big brush. Some people actually like to paint even small spaces, or just plain paint with really big brushes. I find I can do either way, and I actually paint with different brushes, different sizes. Most people do, different sizes, different kinds. So we're going to kind of move along here a little faster, and I'm going to paint a bit without saying anything, because I'm going to be doing the same techniques, and you can just zoom in and watch, so I can kind of speed this video up a little bit. So we'll just paint for a while, okay? Right here, I am using acrylic green. I happen to have a really light green that I happen to really like. And in this leaf, with water down first, showing you that you can do acrylics with watercolor, I am putting it in like I would have the watercolor paint. It doesn't move exactly the same way, but I just happen to like that color. So I wanted to show you how that can work. As you see, I do this in some of my other videos as well. Just gives it a bit of a different effect, which I kind of like to vary things around a little bit and do different. I'm going to add some orange in there. I will say, I'll explain a little bit here and there. I am working right now on wet, it's called. Wet on wet. The paper's wet, the paint's wet, the brush is wet. So everything is sort of blending, but as you can see, it is not blending into the area around it, because the area around it is dry. Out here and everywhere, is dry, so it's not going to Now again, I'm using a acrylic yellow, and I'm adding that in while it's wet to give that sort of a nuance. I like to incorporate the two. Been doing that for a while now. Put a little bit of green in there. And we're going to wet this other leaf to an extent. I've got some paint on it, but I don't mind that because the leaf's gonna be green. It's gonna be a different color green, so that's okay. So I'm gonna get this blue and purple that I've already got sitting on my palette here. I'm gonna mix that same green into it. And you see now I have a little bit of a different green happening with that bit of mixture that was on my palette. It's very good to vary up your, it's good to vary up your greens. We can use blues, oranges, reds, purples. In fact, if I add some purple right now into this, I can come down here and really, which I need to do anyway because I'm coming down under his chin and around his fur and body. And look at this fine tip. It just, oh God, it just goes around so incredibly beautifully. Now, I didn't wet the paper here, but I'm going to come around and whoops, we have a little too much orange on there. I mean, oh geez, purple. Okay, but with that purple and with the green and way too much water, okay, we'll just soak some up. There we go. And a little bit of red. And I'll have these, nice, and what that's called is putting harmony into your paintings. So all these different colors I've been painting with, right? So we've got some reds and yellows and oranges and purples and greens and blues. And I've got them all on my palette, which I have not removed. And it just really works so nicely. I'm getting some blue here because I just, for some reason right now, would like to make a very different colored leaf. Something that is a little different, and it's watered. So everything's moving. The water and the paints are moving. They're doing their own thing. Add a little green in there down here. And there I have a different colored leaf, right? So this is, finishing up this painting. I don't know that I'll be able to finish it all in this one tutorial because I don't want my tutorials to be long. I just want them to be short and helpful. So we shall see. I'm going to a yellowy one here. And you saw me wet the paper first. I use the same brush, which I'll probably finish the whole painting with because I love painting with these brushes. I really do. Maybe take a little bit out right there. And then go into burnt sienna, some burnt sienna, and just touch around the edges of this pretty flower and let it kind of bleed. It's called bleed. Blending, bleeding. The water moves the paints themselves. And each one I'm touching, it's moving the paint around a little bit, as you can see. And we change the color of that just a little bit. And then I'm going to go into some orange mixed with that blue. Nope, that's not what I wanted to do. I'm sorry. That's okay. Another blend on my palette. Okay, so we started yellow, right? So I wanted to come to this gamboge, and I've got some other colors mixed in. So we're just putting it back there using this small little brush. And I'm going to take out, with these brushes, I will often get a cloth and have it in my hand because the brush is so big rather than constantly putting it on there. And then I'm going to come out here and I'm going to dab a little off because I want that to be highlighted right there and highlighted right there. Now that's pretty. That came out pretty. All right, going into my green and blue. And this is a little wet here, so it may blend. Not too much because it's starting to dry up. And pull down my stem, which is like no effort at all with these things. Over here and add a little green, extra green. And that there, and smooth it out a little with a damp brush. Cute. All right, and then we missed some. I'm going to come back to the green with a little bit of sepia on my palette, but we want more green. Want it to be more green. And I forgot to, where was it? Oh, down here. Forgot to put the, it's not going to move because this is all dry down here now, which is fine. It's not a problem. I'm drawing it in. All right. Damp my brush a little bit. Come here, down here, where there's some leaves underneath everything, which would be a bit shaded. And I'm going around that pretty white and blue flower with no problems. And it's not bleeding in there because, why? It's not all wet. That's I'm on dry right now because I really wanted to control it coming around all these little areas here. Or we'd be, everything would be kind of mixing in with each other at the moment. Then I'm going to take a little yellow with this green because I want this one here, which I'm going to go around the flower so nicely. I just love these brushes. By now, I think you know. And this is a lighter green. I used the green mixture on my palette, and I added yellow. Cadmium yellow is what that is. And I'm going to very carefully put it around for this beautiful lighter leaf. Oh, I love it. Just love it. So pretty. Just so pretty. I hope you're all catching the I hope you're all catching the watercolor bug. If I could talk this afternoon, I seem to be having a little issue with that. All right, I'm going around this flower here for this little leaf that I had put in some leaves here, a little lighter because it's on the lighter side of the paper. Light's on this side. Or it's actually, I don't know, I really didn't establish that at the beginning. So at this point, it could be coming from any direction, really. And you can do that, that's fine. If you wanted it coming from just some particular direction only, you would want to designate that at the beginning. And because I didn't, I'm not going to say that it is. I'm going to let it be where it's not. So I'm going into the purple here, and I'm going to add some white because I want a lavender color. And we're going to, on dry paper, I'm going to just paint this cute little flower with this wonderful tip. Paint it in. I'm controlling the water and the paint because you got it, I'm on dry paper. And then we're going to wash that off. We're going to take a little sepia and come into the middle and dab it around there. And that just worked so nicely. Okay, it's hard for me to see my my drawings. All right, so I'm going to take a little more water on this, coming up here to this flower, and we're going to paint this flower. I'm trying to think what color paint the flower I want there. I think I'm going to have it yellow, so I'm going to take some yellow paint, and I put water in it already on the paper, so it's going to move a little, but it's not going to move far because the rest of the paper is not wet. Those the bunny part, and these leaves have already dried, you know, enough so that it's not going to cause that to bleed. It's called bleed, or what it looks like, blending. And then I'm going to take some yellow ochre, a little too much there. And underneath on the bottoms, we're going to add where there'd be shadow. We're going to add that on the sides where I want it a little darker. This is just working just exquisitely, really. To tell you the truth, that's how I like to word it. And I'm going to grab this sepia, and we're going to go right here with this tiny little tip, and we're going to pull out some very tiny lines. Can you believe it, folks? How tiny and skinny those lines are. And I'm putting the dot for those stamens that are in the, I think they're called stamens. Wash your brush off, dry it a little. And then I have another one here, leaf, right here, I'm sorry. My eyes are bad from today, from the weather. I'm like a human barometer, I swear. Okay, so we're going to get a more bluish, greenish going on here. Wet that a little more. And we're going to put this one in. This is like a long leaf, just kind of flopping over. Put a little darker area towards here, towards where it's, and you see how, again, it's not blending into this flower. I've already made, because it's dry here, just gonna dab some green right in here. And then I'm gonna come over into the reddish, and I'm gonna put that in here as well. It'll darken it up, and it will also, what it's called, harmonize with the rest of the picture, because I have all those colors in the rest. All right. I know I've got another one there somewhere. It's getting evening too, so it's harder to see. I want to do that one a bit on the blue side, bluish greenish side as well. This one here. There's different ways that these can be done. You can start at the point and go backwards, or as I'm doing with this, I'm starting right at the base of the flower, of the petal, and I'm doing that. I'm making this one side a little darker. Look at the point of that I got with this. Oh well. I'm going to add some yellow. See what it did? It changed the green a little. Very beautiful. And I'm going to take some of that blue, and I'm going to darken it up on this bottom part. And it's still moving, because it's moving itself as well as my moving it, because it's still wet. I'm going to leave it just like that. So you see all the different greens I have going on here? And I have all these colors within the greens because they're in the painting. Again, describing that as harmony within the painting, harmony in the painting. Now I want to come to this color here, I think. Whoops, we don't want a blob. My paint, this is dried. My paint is fairly damp, and my brush is fairly damp, and I'm going to outline the outlines of this flowers, simply because I want to right now. I just would like the looks of it better. And I'm going to add it in here, because that would be very dark down in there. And along with that, I took some paint off my brush, wet it a little, and just here and there with a watery brush, I am adding in reds and taking some out, moving them around, pulling some out, and that's my mix. All right. Now we have these long things. I don't know what they're called, but we're going to take some sepia, actually, oh, excuse me, the hiccups this morning. I guess they're coming back. I'm adding some burnt sienna with some, excuse me, yellow ochre. That's my blend. With this tiny tip, we're going to come over here and very, very gently, we're going to paint on these very skinny little, again, I don't know what they are. They're like fillers for baskets and so forth. I'm not sure whether they'd be considered I don't know what they'd be considered, to tell you the truth. But you know what I'm talking about by what it looks like, I'm sure. If you know what it is, put it in the comments, would you? But you see how nice this would make beautiful, this can do beautiful tree branches, because that's basically what these, same thing I'm doing here. Squiggly lines. Filling in the picture is what I'm doing. And then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to do the same thing. But I'm going to add actually a little bit of red with that. So I've got some sepia, a little red, and a little yellow ochre in there for a real pretty color. They just sort of wisp and hang down. They're very pretty, I think, anyways. And I kind of picked my brush up every so often so that it wouldn't, so it kind of gives it a, I don't know, a little lighter effect, so not as dark and pronounced as those. And with a damp brush, but dry paper, I'm going to get some yellow, come into those colors I just did with a little more green. And right here is a leaf that I am going to draw in. I don't want this to mix with those little fine, normally I would have done this a little different, but I wanted you to see actually what this beautiful brush can do. So I'm drawing in this leaf and going all around these little brown things that I just put in. And look at how absolutely beautiful that works. Just beautiful. Really very, very beautiful. And then I had another one that was right under here that I'm going to add in to it for you. Look at that. Didn't disturb those little brown things at all. And then I'm going to take a little yellow on this side here with the tip of it and a little bit of water, not a lot. If I put a lot of water, everything's going to move all over the place in different ways. And that's perfectly fine, but right now, that's not what I'm doing. So see how great that worked? We'll take some water, because I got to speed this video up a little bit here. And even though I have a little green left on my brush, this is a green leaf, so I do not mind whatsoever that I watered it with a greenish colored water because I'm making a leaf. Maneuvering this around, get a little reddish color, rose color in there, which I absolutely love on leaves. And we're going to put that. To be careful when you come in here because unless you want them all to bleed. Oh, I know what I needed to do here. I have a fold. I was wondering what that was like that for. Okay. So I'm making a fold on this leaf on the top. I'm going to add a little blue to darken that up or kind of cause it to be a little more bluish fold. And right down into the, next to that bowl. Isn't that amazing? Okay. And then I'm going to get this other browner color here. It was burnt sienna. And I just want this fold to be a brownish. Oh my, so pretty, isn't it all? Just so pretty. We can add something over here to darken it up. This is the darker side, or kind of like the darker side in a way, if we want. What time is it? Okay, this is gone. Oh, it always goes too fast. So I'm going to make this as part 1 because this is already gone too long, and I'll finish up in a part 2 of this. So this one's going to be part 1 of this cute little Easter bunny using various brushes and the beautiful tips of them with a little bit of help and encouragement and helpful tips. So be looking out for part 2, and part 2 will have 1 or 2 names of the same title as this one, so you can find it a lot easier because I have several Easter bunny videos I'm doing up until Easter. So have a wonderful day, folks, and bye for now.